calling out multiple people in his famous Hall of Fame speech, to asking a fan for $15,000 just for a picture. These are Michael Jordan's most problematic moments. Let's kick this off with his Hall of Fame speech. Sure, he's had his fair share of controversial moments in the past, but this speech takes the cake. He started by poking fun at his brother's shorter heights. I'm talking 5'4" and 5'5" compared to MJ's towering 6'6". Then he quickly shifted gears to his high school days and singled out his friend Leroy Smith. Turns out Leroy made the varsity team while Michael didn't. Here's the kicker though. MJ flew Leroy all the way out to Springfield for this big ceremony, supposedly to celebrate their friendship. But instead, he put the poor guy on blast during his speech. He cracked a lame joke about his height and then dropped this bombshell. You made a mistake, dude. At this point, you could practically hear the audience's jaws hitting the floor. They nervously chuckled, unsure of how to react, but MJ wasn't done. Next up, he brought up a guy named Buzz Peterson, who snagged the title of High School Player of the Year over Jordan back in '81. And even though it happened decades ago, MJ was still stewing over that snub. Just when he thought he was run out of steam, though, Jordan went after his college coach. Apparently, the coach left him out of a Sports Illustrated feature, showcasing 4 other players instead. And boy, does that still burn MJ up. Whew! You'd think he'd wrap it up there, but nope. He spent the rest of his Hall of Fame induction speech digging up ancient slights that are so minor, it's doubtful anyone involved even remembers them. His entire speech was like Regina George's burn book. But if you thought that was petty, let me tell you about the time he had an episode on the golf course. This one time, MJ basically found himself playing a round of golf with his coach, Chuck Daly. It was an intense match that went down to the wire, and in the end, Daly managed to squeak out a one-stroke win. Now, you'd think that would be the end of it, right? Well, not for the competitive beast that is Michael Jordan. He simply couldn't accept defeat. So, the very next morning, bright and early, MJ called up Daly's room. No answer. But did he give up? Nope. Petty MJ marched straight to Daly's room and started knocking. And when I say knocking, I mean pounding. He was relentless, refusing to leave until he got his rematch. Who knew he'd be such a sore loser? Now, some would argue that they kinda saw it coming, considering how he punched another player once. I mean, when it came to basketball, he played with unmatched intensity. It didn't matter if you were his friend off the court. Once you stepped onto that hardwood, everything was fair game. Even his own teammates felt the heat of his competitive fire, and Steve Kerr was no exception. During a practice session, tensions between Michael and Steve reached a boiling point. They found themselves in a heated exchange, each refusing to back down. Now, here's where it gets intense. Despite the noticeable physical difference in size, Jordan threw a punch and landed it right on Kerr's face. Ouch! Poor Steve ended up with a black eye as a result. As you can imagine, the incident caused quite a stir and has become the stuff of legend. The entire thing was so heated that Michael was actually kicked out of practice. And you know what's funny? His beefs aren't just with his colleagues. He's also feuded with the authorities. This one time, he actually got banned because he wouldn't respect the dress code. Now, we all know Michael Jordan's love for golf is as strong as his love for basketball, but sometimes even his airness can find himself in a sticky situation. Take this incident at the Lagorce Country Club in Miami, for example. Jordan's known for his incredible style, both on and off the court, but on this particular day, he apparently didn't quite meet the club's dress code. And when a club official approached him on the 12th hole and asked him to change his wardrobe, MJ didn't exactly respond in a way that would win him any popularity points. In fact, Jordan's response was apparently super arrogant. Oh, and get this. Since he refused to change, the country club made a bold move and banned him from ever playing on their golf course again. Yep, you heard that right. No more golfing at Lagorce for MJ. Of course, Jordan being Jordan, couldn't resist making a statement through his public relations office. The statement cheekily concluded with, "I guess it's their loss," as MJ is a great golfer and a great guest. Now, the worst part of all this is that he's always made a big deal out of situations that didn't warrant a second thought. But when he really should have been speaking out, he chose to be all hush-hush. Take the Nike labor practices scandal, for instance. When the topic of Nike's labor practices in other countries came up, it stirred up quite a controversy, especially regarding Michael Jordan's involvement. You see, Jordan's iconic shoe line is under the Nike umbrella, so it's not entirely out of his realm of influence. But his response to the allegations left many fans disappointed. Instead of taking a firm stance or addressing the concerns directly, Jordan seemed to downplay the issue. He more or less brushed it off, expressing his hope that Nike would do the right thing. but distancing himself by saying it wasn't really his business. Ouch! Naturally, fans were taken aback by Jordan's lackluster response. They expected someone of his stature, both on and off the court, to show more leadership and take a more proactive role in addressing the situation. It was seen as a missed opportunity for Jordan to use his influence for positive change. Now, let's be clear. This incident didn't make a huge dent in Jordan's legendary career, but it certainly left a small mark. Fans had hoped for a stronger stand from the NBA legend they admired. That being said, while he kept his mouth shut for this one, he didn't leave anything to the imagination for this next instance. Because guess what? He almost made a grown man cry. So all of us know how Kwame Brown's NBA career didn't quite live up to the hype. He's often mentioned as one of the biggest draft busts ever. It's a tough label to shake off, no doubt about it. But you know what's even tougher? Being a young player with high expectations and having Michael Jordan as your team's general manager. According to a Sports Illustrated article, Jordan wasn't exactly the mentor we all imagined him to be. In fact, he had a reputation for being more of a tormentor than a supportive leader. And poor Kwame Brown ended up being his prime target. Can you imagine being a second-year forward trying to find your footing in the NBA and having MJ constantly criticizing you? The article even mentioned that Jordan would reduce Brown to tears in front of the whole team. But wait, there's more. Apparently, Jordan didn't hold back when it came to using expletives, including homophobic remarks, when talking about Kwame Brown. That's just not cool, MJ. And then, finally, there was a time when he reinforced our belief in the idea that you should never meet your heroes. This was when he asked a fan for $15,000 when they requested a photo with him. It was 2009, and Chamillionaire, the rapper, found himself at a party where Michael Jordan was hanging out with some Boston Celtics players, and the one and only Spike Lee. Now, Chamillionaire, being the brave soul he is, decided to take a shot and approach his airness for a memorable snapshot. He politely went up to Jordan with a little anxiety and a lot of hope and asked for a picture. Now, let's keep in mind that Chamillionaire knew there was a chance of getting turned down. But hey, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? Now brace yourselves for Jordan's response. With a dismissive tone and some serious sass, he said, "Oh, hell no, man. I ain't taking no pictures with no." And it doesn't even end there. Chamillionaire, determined to salvage the situation, decided to share a little story about how he dropped a whopping $7,000 on one of Jordan's jerseys. He was hoping this might soften the GOAT's heart and change his mind. Well, folks, Jordan's comeback is a real doozy. He basically challenged Chamillionaire by saying, "You pay $15,000 right now for a jersey from me, and I'll take a picture with you." Wow, it's a classic case of never meet your heroes. Because let's face it, they might not always live up to our expectations. So, from asking a fan for $15,000 just for a picture, to calling out multiple people in his famous Hall of Fame speech, those were some of Michael Jordan's most problematic moments.